Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com. Purple Daily, presented by Surly Brewing Company.
Routine back-to-back false starts holds. Is that communication? Or?
Yeah, I have no idea about the false starts. We haven't had hardly any of those in camp. We've been harping on them about where their hand placement is and things like that. And, we just got to clean that up. I think there was a couple times they called the tackles were too deep, but usually they tell me first and, give a warning, and no one's talked to me about it.
That was a disgruntled Mike Zimmer in a post-game press conference yesterday after the Vikings' very disappointing overtime loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. Welcome into Purple Daily, Zolgad and Declan Goff. Brought to you, of course, sponsored by Surly and also our friends at TCL TV. Enjoy more with TCL. I suggest that the best place to watch a Vikings game, if you do watch them from home, is on a TCL TV. All right, Declan, here's the deal. Comments from YouTube. Yep. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel right now, you're saying, well, comments from YouTube is usually on Fridays. What's going on? Or Saturdays? Not anymore. We are going to relocate it now to a Monday after game edition. And so Phil is not going to join us for this. It's going to be you and me. And you, I believe, have gone through a bunch of the comments. I have. And we can start to sort through them as we now bring you on Monday's comments from YouTube. Declan, go ahead. Floor is yours.
We got some comments here from our YouTube channel. If you would like your question to be answered, or if you have any questions, please comment on our YouTube channel. Also hit our subscribe button. We'll pump out daily Minnesota Vikings conversations, and then more than daily. I mean, we're doing things twice a day now these days, now that the season has started.
Regular season's here, baby. It's time to hunker down. It's time to get going.
Comments from YouTube. We have Realistic Randy, your old buddy Chip Scoggins. Plenty of more and additional Vikings content right here on our Purple Daily podcast channel. Rate and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and ScoreNorth.com, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let's start with this first one from Mike Judd, because after you and I and Phil have done our pie charts, we've done our Monday statements, I think this is a good place to start on our comments edition from Mike. He goes, everyone needs to calm down. Starting this season off a little cold is not always a bad thing, and I think a lot of Vikes mistakes can be cleaned up. What do you think of Mike's assessment that everyone needs to calm down, and an 0-1 start to the 2021 season has to have their brakes pumped a little bit?
This is what I said last week. So training camp and the preseason didn't go well. And I said on Purple Daily last week, let's all calm down. The season hasn't started yet. Not that a switch can be flipped instantly, but the regular season can look very different than training camp did. Do you remember when I said that?
I did, yes.
Do you know how stupid I look now for saying that? Because that first game was awful. I think if you don't I think if you're not concerned after what we saw in Cincinnati on Sunday, you're missing the point. And also, Dex, you play Arizona next. They just kicked the crap out of the Tennessee Titans. Pretty good team. Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Chandler Jones had 5 sacks. Kyler Murray, I believe, had 4 touchdowns. That's your next opponent in Arizona for their home opener on Sunday. Seattle, Russell Wilson and company went to the Colts. They beat the Colts, right? They're week 3 at home here, not there, which should help. But my point being is, I don't know that you should calm down. I don't know that. And yes, a lot of the things that the Vikings did wrong against the Bengals are fixable, but also it was the Bengals. Like, that was a game, and that Bengals team, I'm sorry, is still not great. I like Joe Burrow, but it's not a great team. So I guess I said the same thing that Mike did a week ago, and I feel like I have egg on my face for doing so. So I'm not sure what your feeling is, but I don't really want to calm down after the garbage I just saw. I want to be upset, and I want to say, what the hell was that?
Yeah, I told you guys, you and Phil, in the preseason that I was starting to have worries, and I was concerned over lack of preseason success, the training camp being what it was, and I still thought, though, that if we start playing actual regular season football games, you're playing a softie in the Cincinnati Bengals, that this should be the least of our problems in this 17-game schedule. And there's some tough opponents on here. I have egg on my face on both sides of that. Yes, I am talking on both sides of my mouth.
You dismissed the Bengals.
But I did dismiss the Bengals. And I to be honest, the Bengals didn't beat you. You beat yourselves. I do have that take. It was more of you beating yourselves than it was Cincinnati taking it to you in week 1. So I understand where Mike is coming from. 2015 started out 0-1. They ended up winning 11 games and finishing 11-5. This can happen. But yes, just the week 1 performance obviously was a little concerning. Bert wants to know, well, they got Arizona next week, and it's going to be worse. Do you agree with Bert that it's going to be worse in Arizona next week against Kyler Murray?
Boy. I mean, I think you are going to play better because you can't play worse. The first half on Sunday was atrocious. So in that sense, I think the Vikings are going to come back with a stronger game. But I also now, and I'm not sure about you, Declan, I now just have questions about this team as a whole and what my perception was and what it is now coming out of that Bengals loss. So, yeah, I mean, who's going to stop Chandler Jones? Rashad Hill? I don't know that you can get him enough help. And the offensive line had mistakes. The pressures weren't terrible, but the mistakes were. And the Vikings definitely, in the second half of that game, went to a quicker passing attack to try and make up for the fact that, Rashad Hill's a backup. Ezra Cleveland, I think we all just assumed, he's going from right to left guard. It's going to be fine. Well, it wasn't necessarily fine. Garrett Bradbury is being relocated by nose tackles on a regular basis. So I would love to say it's going to be much better on Sunday. And I do think the performance should be improved. But I guess my question is that enough to beat the Cardinals at home with them coming off the game that they played? And, by the way, your rushing defense gave up 149 yards, Declan.
Yeah.
And now you're facing Kyler Murray's team.
Good luck.
Well, the performance has to improve. Is that enough? Cincinnati, for big portions of that game, made you look foolish in some ways because I am with you, your own faults. But even if they improve, are they going to have a pretty good chance to beat the Cardinals? Now, it's football, so it can be weird. But I just have real questions now. I'm very shaken by everything that we saw in training camp that we feared.
Right.
Basically came true on Sunday.
It did. It really
I really
did.
thought, okay, there's going to be some problems.
Sure.
But everything we talked about, everything melted down. That has shaken me to the core of my football foundation. And I don't know what to tell you. I'm the parent trying to say, it's going to be okay. I don't know it is.
I know. This is going to be an interesting ride if it continues down that way. Dr. Crypto wants to know. Dr. Crypto, I don't know if you're a big Dogecoin guy. Must be if his name is Dr. Crypto. And he says, stop beating yourselves up, guys. This Bengals team is actually way better than you and everyone else thought. And I still think the Vikings win the division. What's more true, this Bengals team being way better than we thought, Judd, or the Vikings still having a chance to win the NFC North?
Well, first of all, if you're going to say that the Bengals team is, and you're going to use the word way better, so words, way better, okay? Zach Taylor's their coach, and I don't think he's that good. That fourth down call that he made with his team up by 2 touchdowns was an atrocious play call. So is their personnel improved? Probably, absolutely. They signed some free agent. They've got some nice players. So, yes, on paper, personnel-wise, they're better. Are they markedly improved? I don't know. And if the Vikings potentially are going to win the division, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm impressed. The division, again, was outscored on Sunday 140-74. So I'm sorry, but Dex, if you win the NFC North and you're the Vikings and you win 9 or 10 games and you get bounced in the first round of the playoffs, does that save jobs? I don't feel good about that.
No, it doesn't. I hear what you're saying there.
So I'm not going to take a lot of... Now, if you tell me that they're going to come back and win 12 games, different perspective, different outlook for me. But if you're going to sneak into the playoffs because the North becomes the what the East was in this conference last year, that doesn't make me feel good.
No, not at all. As I'm frozen trying to just come up with the words and ideas to say. As I do say that, though.
That's actually a good shot of you, though.
It is.
It's but it's sort of like a painting.
It is. It is. So I'll go to the Purple Daily little guy here just for a second. Let's see. Next question here from Footed Bill. Footed Bill wants to know, any Kirk Cousins hate from today's game being Sunday doesn't know football. What do you think of Footed Bill saying any Kirk Cousins hatred from Sunday's game doesn't know anything about football, Jed Solgad?
Kirk Cousins put up a great box score, but the reality was when you needed him to make certain plays in the first half, for instance, he didn't. Justify or defend any portion of this team is something that we here at Score North are working with fans on to rectify, because you're never going to have championship aspirations if you run around with your hair on fire willy-nilly trying to defend a performance that's this bad. I would say if you need to defend Cousins or any other part of this team, that you are a fan of a player and you don't care about your team.
I agree. The Kirk Cousins pie chart of blames that all of us came up with after the game on Sunday. I believe you were the only one who gave Kirk some blame between Mackie Judd and myself, and yours was just a 5% piece of pie. It was just a sliver. It's for the kids' table, I believe was your exact word. It was just a tiny piece of bit. When I constructed my pie chart, I really just write down a lot of things and I kind of trim out the pie, if you will. I throw out pieces of pie that I realize aren't worth serving to the audience. And I realized that, you know what, serving up a piece of Kirk Cousins pie in the blame wouldn't really assess to anything. That doesn't mean, though, that, yes, Kirk, on both occasions, in regulation and overtime, put the team in position to tie and or win that game. I am on the belief that the butt was down as well in Dalvin Cook before the fumble. I'm under that, but guess what? It didn't happen. You had all game also to figure it out. Right. Joe Burrow had a great drive in the second quarter where he had big-time throws. 3 throws, I believe, over a 15, 25 yards.
He called that play. He checked to the play.
And he literally called an audible at the last second when things weren't going to go the way it was planned. I can tell you right now, Kirk doesn't even know how to do that, which is astonishing considering he's a 10-year vet.
Do it. Yeah, you're right.
He doesn't have the fortitude to do it, I should say. He does know how. But yes, it is so frustrating to hear. I get what Footed Bill is saying. I don't think any of us are trying to put a big chunk of the blame on Kirk because, yeah, if Dalvin doesn't fumble, we're talking about a fourth quarter comeback drive on Kirk's resume, and we're having a different tune on Monday. But guess what? They lost. That's not what happened.
And why do we feel the need? Because there are not a lot of sports towns like this to defend the quarterback. The quarterback gets paid a ton. The quarterback is the most important position in sports, all of sports, right? Why do we feel the need to defend that player?
I don't know.
That player has all the pressure on him for a reason. Like when you have the second highest salary cap hit in the National Football League for 2021 to Russell Wilson, Declan, you are expected to do way more than anybody else. And to be like, well, Kirk's just part of the team. No, he's not.
I know.
You didn't sign him to be part of the team. You signed him to be the marquee. If you have a marquee, it says Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. So it's I don't understand, and I don't know if it's media driven or what, but there's a weird need in this town to defend Cousins in particular. It's the anti-Mauer thing. So we dumped on Joe, right? Joe's overpaid. Joe doesn't do this. Let's make fun of Joe. And Kirk Cousins is basically not as talented, but has some personality things that he shares with Joe, and we defend him.
Right.
I don't understand why we defend him. There's no need to defend the quarterback.
It's a weird narrative. As Joshua says, too, yeah, if Dalvin doesn't fumble, we're talking about Kirk Cousins' 2 clutch drives, regulation and OT, to propel the Vikings to a win that they didn't deserve. And
didn't deserve's the key thing, though.
Yes, didn't deserve it.
And again, my whole platform is I'm dumping on everybody. Everybody deserves blame. You played like crap. So I'm not just attacking Kirk.
I hear you.
There's a lot of Zimmer, Spielman. Now Cook got screwed, but he still got called for a fumble.
Right. Before I get into my next question from Kenneth, which kind of dovetails into your last point there,
yes, sir.
Do want to shout out our friends at PXG Minneapolis in Southdale Center, the Gen 4 golf clubs, the Thunderboats, the fun putters that are available there. Go check them out. PXG Southdale Center. I wasn't able to get out on the sticks or swing the sticks last weekend.
First time in months.
All summer. I have at least made it out one weekend.
You were with me.
And I was with you on Saturday. I had the Vikings on Sunday. I might be able to get some morning rounds in before the Vikings play in Arizona on Sunday. Maybe that'll be the goal, but I'll have to check out my friends at PXG in Southdale Center. Now that fall golf season is here. Oh, it's been so dang hot this year in Minnesota, which has been fine.
Nice now.
Because it's been fine, but now it's fall golf weather.
Yep.
There's nothing beats 60 degrees in the fall time
you
in
love fall
Minnesota.
too.
I
thought
don't
you
love
didn't like fall.
I don't love fall.
Fall, but you just said why fall
I like
is so
fall
great.
golf because of our friends at PXG in Southdale Center. The pumpkin spice and all that stuff, that's different. But my friends at PXG they get it in Southdale Center.
Speaking of, Saturday, we did a Gopher suite.
Yep.
A lot of viewers, listeners of both Purple Daily and Mackie and Judd. As you walked into the suite, Declan Goff, what was your favorite thing to see?
Oh, well, it was great to see all of our listeners, and I beat you there, which was my point, because I didn't want to see your mug again, after seeing you for 5 days a week.
Yes.
I saw a big 6-pack of Surly Furious just staring me right in the face, and I said, thank God, it's Saturday morning, and if I have to deal with Judd Zolgad for another day, and my listeners were fine, because I love our listeners, but if I have to sit next to Judd and do a tag team with them, at least we're going to both be furious with Surly, Minnesota's favorite IPA.
The red cans. You see the red cans. And here's what crystallized to me late last night, Declan Goff, just quickly. This crystallized completely, okay? I realized Saturday, Gopher Suite. I see the red cans, and it was a fun day. Listeners are there. We're hobnobbing. We're talking. We're watching a Gopher football win. And so Surly Furious, we broke it out to celebrate, right?
That's right.
To celebrate our friends, to celebrate a football game. But then on Sunday, the Vikings, awful, terrible game. But again, what was there? What was the one consistent? My Surly Furious IPA to console me after that brutal performance. What crystallized to me is Surly's the favorite IPA. Don't settle. Get Surly.
Kenneth wants to know, Zimmer is the number one problem, and he needs to be fired mid-season. Joe, would you agree that Zimmer is the number one problem for the Vikings' philosophy of not being a Super Bowl contender in 2021?
If he is, I will say this. Who's going to replace him? And do you really think that's going to turn your season around in an effective way? And the other thing is, and I am not predicting this, okay? So I just want to say, I want to make this clear as a disclaimer. But you know what? Let's say it starts again like last year, all right? It's a tough schedule, 1-5. I firmly want to see this team at that point in time accept its fate, unlike a year ago, and tank. So no, I think that Zimmer is coaching for his job. I think this is an incredibly important year, Declan. But I also don't think that firing him 8 games in is a prudent move. I'd rather see you ride this thing out in a disastrous 3 or 4 win year and get the draft pick than like do the old thing again, the old wild thing. We got to fire Yo and we're going to make the playoffs.
Furious rally.
Yeah, the Furious Rally. These guys are turning into the Furious Rallies with Kirk playing the role of Zach Parisi. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it.
Who's here?
I want, that's a good question. That's a good question. I'm not sure. But anyway, but it feels like, it could be. But it feels like the same thing, right? So I'm not sure where you stand, but I actually have no interest in seeing Mike get fired during the course of this year because, one, I don't think that there is a coach in waiting on his coaching staff like Stefanski was.
Sure.
And 2, I'd rather see them ride the wave out and just be awful if that's possible, and then hit the reset button in January.
Yeah, I hear you. Coaches are the easiest scapegoat to make out to be. I get that. I think the only way he really gets fired, whether they're 0-5 or just underperforming at some part in the season, is if this defense continues to be bad again, then he's going to be fired. Then there's actually, and I know that was on Rick Spielman too, that he's helped draft these guys, he's helped sign these guys, and I believe at that point it's a handcuff deal, dude. It's a handcuff divorce, if you will. That's really the only way I see him getting fired midseason. If the defense looks like it did again in 2020.
But who replaces him, Declan?
But
that's my serious question.
That is a great question. I mean, like Keenan McCardell, like I really don't know. I don't think he has the chops either.
Like Stefanski was the one guy who was considered to be at that time a coach in waiting. I don't know that there is a guy now that you want to go to.
I would say if it's really just an interim basis and you're just riding it out, Andre Patterson probably could step in and run the team for 6 weeks if Zim was fired week 11 or whatever it would be. I think he could. I do think he could.
Oh yeah, he could. But I mean, do you want that?
Not necessarily.
Does that really work?
No.
Like, unless the players have totally turned on Mike, I don't see the upside to that.
I
I mean,
agree.
just allow nature to potentially take its course. The one thing I don't want, though, and I'm not joking, I do not want, if things have gone drastically wrong, a furious rally at all. Nothing drives me more crazy. And at that point in time, Dex, take the draft pick.
Yeah.
Like if this team had accepted its fate last year, okay? 1-5. All right, we're just not that good. You for sure get a chance at Justin Fields, for sure, which they wanted. So and do you think back starting coming off the bye week in Green Bay and think to yourself, you know what was really satisfying? That run of wins by the Vikings. Of course you don't. They didn't even make the playoffs. So
No, not at all. Let's a couple roster questions here as we wrap our comments edition. Mannix AK wants to know, why is Dantzler an afterthought now? I thought he was one of the highest graded corners for the second half of last season. Is Cam Dantzler on a track, Judd, to maybe be activated after being an inactive player in week 1 against the Bengals?
So he fell out of favor with the coaching staff in training camp. He did not have a good camp. And it seemed to me, totally an observation on my part, it seemed to me that they brought Breland in to start, and Dantzler knew that. And keep in mind, as a rookie, Cam Dantzler started 10 of the 11 games in which he played. But I don't really think that he was going to have a chance to compete for that job, and it seemed to get him down. And I think the coaching staff also complained about his work on special teams. That being said, I'm going to put the onus also on the coaching staff, because you know what? Here's the frustrating thing. And one is the coaching staff's fault for sure. One is more on Rick for drafting. But Dex, in the first 3 rounds of the 2020 draft, you took Jefferson, great pick. Jeff Gladney, who, by the way, the Vikings go on and on about all the off-field work on players that they do, and they know their personalities, and they spend hours vetting who these guys are as people. Jeff Gladney turned out to potentially, at least the accusations say, not be a great guy for sure, and was let go, okay? So there's responsibility there. That's just not bad luck. Oh, he got in trouble. We didn't know. And then the Dantzler thing, I'm going to put on the coaching staff, because as frustrated as they might have been with his attitude and his lack of production in preseason and training camp, that's also on them.
Yeah.
Like, you are supposed to, if anything was supposed to come from 2020 and the debacle on the back end on defense, right? Was supposed to be hey, but we got a lot of work, and these guys are going to come back and be much improved. And now one's gone, and one is the 6th guy on the depth chart and not active. And then don't forget 2018 first round pick Mike Hughes, who they gave up on because of his neck problems, got a key pick for Kansas City in week 1 against Cleveland. So I've always contended for early, if you want good cornerbacks, first round is a place, but certainly high draft picks. I'm giving you 3 high draft picks, corners. 1, gone now. 2, Gladney, gone now. And 3, Dantzler, inactive. And I don't know how much you've watched Chris Boyd, but Chris Boyd and Harrison Hand are ahead of Cameron Dantzler, and Chris Boyd is a late round pick who's a special teams guy.
Yeah, it's.
Did you see Joe Burrow go right at him yesterday?
Yes, I did.
I mean, Joe Burrow looked at, hey, there's Chris Boyd, bang, bang, bang. So yeah, I think the coaching staff on Dantzler has to accept some of the responsibility for what's gone wrong there, and to not have 2 high draft picks from 2020 now doing nothing for you can't just be dismissed as bad luck.
Last one here from Jay Anderson. I think you'll like this one, Chud. Wyatt Davis may be playing center before guard, more than double the rushing yards and penalty yards if all were accepted yesterday. What do you think of Wyatt Davis actually sliding in as the starting center instead of a starting guard?
So I've got some insight on this. I told you this, I think, on Purple Daily and training camp, among my training camp notes. Wyatt Davis was working before he got quarantined. Don't think he got COVID, but he was quarantined because he was close contact with Kellen Mond, who did get COVID. Wyatt Davis, one day after practice, was working with Mond just on snapping, and he did get some reps there eventually, but I don't think he has played center in competitive football much. And they were literally post-practice working on how to snap the ball. So here's my guess. If the Bradbury thing, and it might be crumbling fast. I have no idea what the leash is with Garrett Bradbury, but it might be at this point in time, really short.
Yeah.
I think the first guy to get a chance would be Mason Cole, who's played guard and center for the Cardinals, and I think the Vikings obtained him for a draft pick. And Wyatt Davis is probably at this point earmarked to play guard because he played there in college.
Wow.
Udo, what was his grade? Did
Low.
you see his PFF grade?
Low.
See, that's the other thing is we just assumed because he was big and nasty that he was going to be good, but there's two problems with that. One is he is a tackle transformed to guard right before training camp. So like they didn't have a plan in the spring to be like, dude, you're going to be at guard. We're going to work with you a ton. The other thing is the last big burly, mean ass guard I recall, if I'm not mistaken, was Drew Samia, who are all like, he's really mean.
Nasty.
He's really nasty. And his PFF grades were terrible. And he was benched for Cleveland. So my guess is this. If this all blows up again, and it might, Mason Cole gets the first chance at center. Wyatt Davis then replaces, if they do make this move, Udo at right guard. But then the whole question too is if Rashad Hill blows up and Christian Darrisaw is not prepared to come back, do they put Davis at right guard and kick Udo back out to left tackle because he is a tackle by trade?
Right.
Think about what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's shuffling deck chairs in the Titanic. Is
It's
what it sounds
one
like.
week in, and you've got all these problems because you didn't sufficiently address the needs. And by the way, I'm not giving them a pass on the Darrisaw thing because he had surgery in January. You always have to be prepared. It was core surgery. That's a big deal in football.
It is, man.
So I'm not going to just give them a free pass and be like, well, that's just all bad luck. No, it's not. You got to have plans. And then let's throw one more thing in. Mac Jones looked damn good for the Patriots. Now, I was not an advocate
Me neither.
of him, but it's not my job. It's the Vikings' job to identify quarterbacks. What if Mac Jones is really good and you bailed on the pick and bailed back because you're still scarred by your Ponder screw up?
It's bad, man.
Oh, it might not be bad, but it's
frustrating.
It's frustrating.
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
It's, as somebody that follows the team, it's frustrating. The offensive line thing frustrates me a lot because a lot of it's common sense. And I said this when they did it. You can't just call Oli Udo in right before training camp and be like, you're going to play guard. That's a huge ask. It's a different position. Doesn't mean he can't get good there, but there's no time to get good here. That's the thing is, the 2021 Vikings don't have time to develop guys. They need to win right now.
Yep.
2020, you did that. And by the way, when you decide to do that, that means you also don't do the furious rally BS and you allow yourself to just be, okay, we're not good. And then to see Zimmer's comments in the Mark Craig piece in the Star Tribune was really good. Yesterday about the fact that privately he was like, we'll be lucky to win 8 games in 2020. So you milked the wins out of that team when you would have been better off just taking the damn draft pick when it turns out you knew you weren't good. That's all I got.
Feel good? Feel better?
You know what? I'll feel better tonight.
Yeah.
After a couple Monday Night Football and
sure.
Surly Furious. Ladies and gents, I want to remind you, Surly Furious, it's the beer for you, a beer to celebrate or a beer to be depressed about your team. It doesn't matter. It's the best IPA that I've ever had.
All right, sir. That's it for comments. We'll talk next week.
Bye.
Thank you. Rate, subscribe. Love us. Thank you.